Good evening, everyone. If there is a book, I would like to start with a quote. If there is a book which you want to read but hasn't been written yet, you must be the one to write it. By Toni Morrison. How apt are these lines for today's evening? First of all, a very warm welcome to one and all present, celebrating the written word by a very own talented young storytellers. It is indeed a very proud moment, not only for the students, but for parents, teachers, principals, librarians, and everyone since childhood who have nurtured these kids to mold the raw talent to a young author. I Want to Be an Author is the first of its kind school initiative campaign by Crossword. We had started this campaign 3 years ago with a dream to give a platform to students who have a knack and flair for writing, not to forget our sponsors' flair. For the students to discover them young, mentor them, and also to give them an opportunity to showcase their writing talent and get published in form of a compilation of short stories under the banner of the right place, the publishing arm of Crossword. I Want to Be an Author has successfully completed 3 seasons, and we had published 39 stories in the season one, 51 stories in season two, and 55 stories in season three. Apart from it, we had also done an online campaign during the lockdown, in which we have selected 4 stories which were held on the social media platform of Crossword and Shopperstock. And we had done this contest or a campaign rather in 74 schools of Mumbai and 29 schools of Bangalore. For a school campaign, the school and parents get an unparalleled opportunity to improve the skills of their children and equip them to compete on a grand platform where the best of the best merge to cast a spell of words. Out of more than 25,000 entries which we had received this year, for the city finale, which just happened a month before the lockdown, that is on 15th of Feb in the heartland of Mumbai at the Somaya school, there were around 300 kids who were mentored by the storytelling experts and renowned authors. I would like to share something about the book as well. The 55 Young Storytellers, Edition 3, Season 3, a modern love saga, a covert mission, a wobbly relationship, a scientific wonder, a jungle safari. Young Storytellers Season 3 is an eclectic mix of 55 short stories like these, written by children in the age group of 11 to 15 as part of I Want to Be an Author campaign, an initiative of Crossword bookstores. The stories offer a contemporary world view which is realistic, optimistic, and progressive. Selected from a large number of entries, the book aptly mirrors a generation of dynamic young minds. Revenge, romance, longing, suppression, fantasy, Bildungsroman, dystopia, and thrillers. These are only some of the genres from a vast spectrum that have found their way into this kaleidoscope anthology. The heartwarming, spine chilling, and mythical collection is a perfect roller coaster for diverse readers. Young Storytellers is a step forward in creating a nation of readers and storytellers. I would like to share something about Crossword Bookstores. Crossword Bookstores aims to be a point of cultural and social interaction where authors and poets hold court, where children are regaled, where people gravitate to be informed, to be entertained, even enlightened. The name embodies the vision of Crossword as a place and space for people who seek information, knowledge, or just the pleasure of reading. Crossword stocks the widest range of books and non books merchandise. You have always seen Crossword as a physical bookstore. Now you can also experience Crossword as an online digital format on www.crossword.in. We have published this book, The Young Storyteller Season 3, under the banner about the right place. The right place is a publishing initiative by Crossword. They are the ideal destination for the authors to arrive with a raw manuscript and see it being converted into a finished book. We have a backlist of over 200 titles now and 15 in the pipeline at present. ranging from various genres, right from children's books, thrillers, and other mythological fiction, biographies, and many more. Uh, for this evening, we have a first guest, and I would request the team to add her on the screen. Principal Parveen Sheikh. She is the principal for the Somaya School in Mumbai. Thank you, team. Thank you, Parveen, ma'am. With over 20 years of experience in education field, Parveen ma'am has been passionate about new innovation in the school system and has driven many research-based ideas in developing teachers' curriculum and building the school culture. As a principal of the Somaya School from its date of inception in 2012 till today, she has built an educational institution to be proud of. And we really would like to thank you, ma'am, for giving us the opportunity to do the shortlist event, the city finale in Mumbai. And as I said, it was just before the lockdown on 15th, where we had almost 300 kids participating. About the second guest for the evening, would request the team to please have and welcome Shabnam Meenwala, the renowned children's author. Shabnam Meenwala has three children, and in the little of time with this brain scrambling job permits, she writes articles and book reviews for magazine and newspapers like the Times of India, Business Line, Outlook, and Outlook Traveler. Her book When Jia Met Urmila won the New Book Award in the year 2019. And today, the on-ground partner, Storytelling Works. So for the evening, we have our moderator, Sudipta Dhruva, who has been part with Crossword for the entire journey. Okay, so would like to request the team to have Sudipta and welcome her. So Sudipta comes with 25 plus years of corporate and entrepreneurial exposure, designing content and facilitating programs in creative thinking, emotional well-being, diversity and inclusion, and mindful storytelling. She hails herself a story harvester and is a promising writer and poet. Would request Sudipta now to take the evening proceedings ahead. Thank you.
Thank, Thanks so much, Harshal. It's amazing to be here with such eminent personalities. And I'm really, really excited to meet all of you as well. Um, this is going to be a really exciting show because we are going to be talking to some very great people who understand stories, understand children, understand schools. And we're also going to get to hear the stories from five amazing storytellers, excerpts from their stories as well. But since I was a part of this process from the beginning, I just wanted to mention that one is it's such a pleasure. I mean, last year, I think, and this year, we've read over 25,000 stories. Me and my colleague, Amisha Aditya, two of us have worked with the schools across Mumbai and Bangalore to ensure that we could convince schools to all get all their children to participate. So that because it's not just about the winning and it's not just about the 55 storytellers out here, you know, really there were just 25,000 amazing storytellers who put their stories. It just happens that we can't print and publish all of them. So to continue with this journey, I'd first like to just ask Shabna, since I know you've had a chance to look at the book, can you just give us a little feedback on what you thought of the book and the stories?
Very impressed by the extraordinary range of topics, the dexterity of language, the fluidity of thought that went into many of the stories. And I just want to tell all the storytellers who made it to the book that you are really, really lucky. And I think I waited 40 years to proudly hold my story in a book in my own hands. So now at your age that you can, and such a beautifully produced book, beautifully printed, and it's just something to be proud of for the rest of your life. It's something your grandchildren will value, I'm sure. So be really happy and proud that you've made it, and well done and congratulations.
Thanks, Shabnam. Parveen, you and your school have been a part of this process again. You all took part last year, you all have taken part this year. And I'd just like to understand from you what you think of this initiative, because it's primarily done in schools. And I also want to know what impact it has. Do you think it's of value to schools?
First of all, I would really would like to thank Crossword for setting up a platform like this because, at school level, we do lots of events in-house. So we are already grooming our students through storytelling session, through literary festival. We have in-house competition. So they are getting groomed at school level, and this seems like a natural progression. So they are looking forward to this event. And over the years, I have seen the number of participants have really gone up. In fact, we are finding it very difficult to send all the entries, and we also curate at our end and then send it to you. So children are looking forward to this as a natural progression because they want to see what is the response of the larger audience to their stories. So the interest has increased, the number of participants are increasing, and I think this gives them, the first stepping stone to becoming an actual author. And as a school, we also invite authors. Shabnam comes to our school, and many other authors come to the school. So they really look up to authors now. Authors are not just a name printed on the cover page of a book; they're live people. So they are learning
So
to
true.
interact with them, and they're aspiring to become one. So a lot of my students want to grow up and become storytellers and writers and published authors. In fact, during the lockdown, I had a grade 4 student. He has written a book, illustrated it, and a printed version. So obviously, it's not published, but he took a colored printout and sent it to me a copy. So that's the
Wow.
starting. And with Crossword, I think children have grown up going to Crossword store, reading books from there, so they connect with the store, and it's a big thing for them to be part of this. And every year, my students have been participating. I think it's a
And
very great initiative. It's a great initiative,
I
and
think
I would want that connect to continue, not just here, but I think many more ways we can explore of continuing this connection. Yeah.
thanks, Shabnam. I know, and if not only have your students been participating, but I think last year you all had a student who had his one of
Sure.
the
Yeah.
students
Yeah.
to the book, and this year too. And in fact, we're going
Yes.
to hear
Yes.
him today as well.
Lovely. I'm
Um,
looking forward.
so I have a larger question out here because when we were looking at the stories, and I'm sure I mean all of us would agree out here that the obviously the exposure is increased. The type of books that children are reading, the type of shows that they are watching on television or on Netflix and stuff is different. And so did you I mean I felt like there were lots of stories which were sort of dark. They were exploring that dark side, death, murder. A lot of those sort of areas were discussed. Why do you think that's happening? Shabnam?
Yeah. So I don't think this is anything very new. Look at your average fairy story, and they are not very pretty and comfortable places, right? We're talking about
Yeah.
poisoned princesses, princesses who've been put to sleep for 100 years, uh, princesses who are being mistreated in the worst way, and it's not a very happy scenario that children live in their imaginations always. And there's a lot of academic work on this. Uh, there are various people like Bruno Bettelheim who've written entire books talking about why children seem to connect to darkness in such a great way.
True.
I think even
True.
more so now because of the exposure. I think earlier the darkness was restricted to fantasy, to some kind of fantastical place. But now with Netflix and TV and social media bringing everything
Yeah.
into your lap and into your hand, I think it's a natural progression. But yes, I think children are very fascinated by the dark. They love supernatural. My new book is a horror book, and the number of children who when will your horror book come out? And I think, why this obsession with horror? Can't wait. Horror. They like to hear. They like, it's also, I think, an exploration of some sort. I don't know, Padveen, maybe, I don't know if you will agree with me, but as
Yeah.
parents, we try to keep it perfect, pretty, cute,
Yes.
and light blue world for our children. Maybe they suspect that that is not reality always, and maybe this is their way of looking beyond that. Perhaps.
Yeah,
I
it's
think so.
very possible. They're negotiating their world in a different way
Yeah.
through these stories.
Yes.
But I mean, how do you have this reflect in your library? Because I know your
So,
library is like amazing.
yeah, so our library is a wonderful place which is very accepting. It is open to all kind of ideas which probably may be restricted in the classroom. Maybe a teacher may not be willing to handle a topic, but library is a space where they open up. And let me tell you about this generation. They have a very strong voice and they have a choice and they are not afraid to exercise that voice and that choice. And
True.
libraries are those very neutral spaces in school where we allow them the freedom. We allow that all across the school, but more so in the library, where they talk about topics which may otherwise be considered as taboo at home, or maybe in the classroom a teacher may not be able to handle. But in library, we talk about those topics, and we also discuss how should you address it, how should you handle it. If you look at our school magazine, which we have every year, the topics are a wider range. A school student writing about LGBT community, I couldn't think of it in my days, but now they
Very
do.
true.
So that is
Yeah.
also something that we speak about. And it's very exciting to see that if you see storybooks, there are now books which talk about death. The authors are also writing about death, even for very young age group. You have a book,
Yeah.
I don't remember the title, which talks about the death of a grandparent.
Yes.
So it's very beautiful that how nicely authors are also addressing this topic. So I don't see any reason why students should not. And students like to
Absolutely.
test the boundaries. So if there is something which is a little gray area, they want to test it out and
That's
see
where they
whether
want to
it works or
push.
no. So I'm quite with them, and I think it's their choice, and they're exploring their world, and whichever lens they use to explore, I think we should support them.
That's true. In fact, my one of my aunts was there when we were looking through these papers. This Miss Supriya Roy, and she is from Shantiniketan, and she's a librarian there. And so we asked her to look through the stories with us. I mean, she was really interested in reading the stories as well. And one of the things she said, which stuck with me because I think I'm a grandmother, is that in all the stories, whatever problems they had with everybody else, they all loved their grandmothers and their grandfathers. So the grandfathers and grandmothers have sort of not got impacted by this darkness somewhere. They were all good. It was quite interesting to see how that played out in a
Yeah.
majority of stories. So, but that was sort of a fun thing. Just one maybe last question that we can sort of explore, and which is that these sort of initiatives are important. I mean, we were just talking about why they're important, but what can we do? Because we do know that reading on the whole is definitely not so exciting for children a lot of times. So what can we do to actually encourage reading and then writing? Because writing is also therapeutic, it's also cathartic for a lot of children, right? So a lot of problems that they're seeing around them, the world that they can't quite control, when they write about it, it sort of allows them to explore it and negotiate it in different ways. But how do we keep this spirit, which these 55 children and a lot of children that I've read stories of, because I know that every a person who writes reads. I
Yeah.
haven't found any story, somebody who writes really well who does not also read. So, what do we do to keep this initiative alive? Any thoughts?
Patki,
Shabnam, you would like to
whom we want to start with?
go ahead, Shabnam.
Yeah,
Then
sure.
I'll take it.
Yeah, Shabnam, go ahead.
Okay, so this is a question that parents ask me all the time. And when I go to Lit Fest, there are very often sessions just talking about how do you encourage children to read. And of course, the first big question would be why do you encourage children to read? Why is it different from anything else children do? And for me, there is one very clear answer. Right now, this big word is empathy, right? We're all trying to create empathy and empathetic children. And I don't think there is any way or any tool more effective in this than reading. Because a book is your most inexpensive, your most tech free, tech hassle free way of traveling in time, traveling to outer space, traveling to another country, traveling to your neighbor's house. There are no boundaries. It's magical. It takes you to different places. It lets you sit in the shoes of a girl who is in a concentration camp. It lets you wear the ghagra choli of a queen who lived 800 years ago. It lets
Yeah.
you travel in a spaceship to a planet that doesn't exist. But so what? It is imagination, it is creativity, and it uh, allows you to create a world that is much more colorful sometimes than the one you inhabit. So reading is important for that. Reading is important because it helps writing. Because in this day and age, I feel communication has become an incredibly important skill. and something that everyone needs. It doesn't matter that you're a mathematician or a physicist or a cobbler or whatever. You have to be able to communicate. So for me, so how to encourage children to read? I can only tell you this as a mother. So I'm a writer. It was very important for me that my three daughters read, and one took to books immediately, another one just didn't, and it was really really worrying me. So what I started to do was I started to take them to the school library on a regular, very often, or to other lending libraries. So we were members of three or four libraries. Because I realized that if you took a book from the library, they didn't feel pressure. If you bought a book, they felt very stressed. We have to read this book. And then I just left a lot of different books lying around. No pressure to read the book I liked when I was a kid. Pick up what you want. Slowly each found their genres and asked, when they ask and when you give, I think it comes with a different joy. The other strategy I followed was I would read the first chapter of a book and then leave it lying around. And if they wanted to pick it up, if the hook has caught them, they will pick it up. And it worked. And my least reader has now become my most reader, to the point that the first place we went after strict lockdown was Lipton was to the library. And I came back with 40 books. And the guy was laughing. And I said, no, this will get over in 20 days. So I think a lot of allowing children to exercise choice. And I kept saying, why aren't you reading Unit License? I used to love it so much. Secret Seven was my favorite. And one day, one of my daughters said, I like St. Clair's, I like Mallory Towers, but I don't like Famous Five, and I don't like Secret Seven. So I said, but why? She said, because haven't you noticed the boys get all the adventures, and if the mummy is sick, it's the girls who have to sit at home.
Valid
So why
point.
should I? I don't want it. Mallory Towers is an equal playing field. Everyone is girls, so some girls get it, some girls don't. But I don't want to be in a book where, Julian of Famous Five is telling George that there's something wrong with her just because she wants to be part of the adventure. And
So
that's
true.
when I realized, you cannot impose your views. If it is an open area, everyone will go in.
Very valid point.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Abnam. That was some really good insights. Parveen, what do you think? I
So,
mean,
Geeta,
at a school level, as a parent.
I would give you a school principal's perspective because, as a mother, we are dealing with our children. And as a school principal, I think I have 1,200 students who are my children. And I want to ensure that each one of them read. So, in our school, we celebrate readers. It's a big deal to be a reader. And we have days when we are doing an activity where you are caught reading. In fact, I remember doing an entire bulletin board where we had caught teachers reading, and teachers' faces were hidden behind a book, and children had to go there and identify which teacher is hiding behind the book. And the idea that if you are caught reading, you will get a very nice sticker. And that time, my office was a glass cabin, and I would see children walking outside my door and very, quietly looking at me, whether I'm looking at them or no, because they wanted me to catch them reading, and I give them a sticker. It's like everything else, you have to do it continuously. It cannot be done once and forgotten. So in our school, we create events and activities, and Sudipta, that's why you all were welcome in our school, because we want
I
people
know.
who are like-minded, who love reading, who celebrate books, to do some activities in our school. So we every year we celebrate a literary festival, and this year we did a month-long literary festival where bring authors, illustrators, publishers, storytellers come to school. So we are really developing first of all interest, and I think once the interest is developed, there is no looking back. Then we also celebrate a day called Read Aloud Day, where even a math teacher will take a storybook and read a story. Even my ICT teacher reads the story, and we go all over the school. Some are sitting in the cafeteria, some in the garden reading. So reading is such a big deal. We also had book club for parents and for students, and we make a big deal and celebrate reading in such a way that everybody wants to become a reader. Books are open, a library is open. I mean, I get so much joy to see that children cut short their lunch break to run to the library to exchange a book. I mean, this gives me so much joy. I think my job is done. If a child is a reader, I think once you're a reader, you live many lives.
The
Like
rest
how Shabnam
is
was
okay.
saying, live so many lives. And I tell people you can talk to the dead. The best way to talk to the dead is through a book.
Through a
So
book.
read. And and as far as children are concerned, I think they learn through imitation. So when parents come to me and ask me that my child is not reading, I ask them, "Do you read?" And they start looking here and there. See, if a child has not grown up in a house where he could reach out and find a book, and if he has not seen his parents with their nose buried in a book, I don't blame children. So I think adults play a very important role, whether it is parents, whether it is schools, whether it is libraries in a school. I think very early on we have to get them hooked onto good books and reading and create that culture. I think our job is done. They will do well academically. They will do well as a person. And like Shabnam said, they develop empathy for people who are different from them. They look at the
Completely.
world differently. And I think that's required in today's day and time. We have to appreciate differences and not just say I'm better than the other. So I think all
Absolutely.
that can be done in the library. So library is a very important period in our school. My library team is very important and they do fabulous work. Yeah.
I agree. I'm sort of a witness to that. So I have
Yeah.
actually been to the library and see you. I'm sure Shabna, you also visited the
I
library.
I
So
feel there too the
it is,
children are
and
really, really responsive. Yeah.
I in fact just saw a message which had come in from Anup Jarajani, who was was the editor, was the publisher, publishing head in Right Place earlier, who's also written the same thing. That I one of the my favorite places was that afternoon that we spent in the library at Somaya. But
Thank you.
I think some very good points raised. One is I love the question of choice. I think it's important to give. I mean, you can't expect children to read the same books that we were reading, and
Yeah.
insist that they would like it as well. So I think the choice is an important point that you raised, Shabnam, and having people around and having books around, seeing your parents read, all of that again is extremely important. And I think the Shabnam, the point I loved the concept itself of celebrating readers.
Yeah.
I think that's such a beautiful concept to sort of go with. And so today we have five storytellers with us. But before that, do we want to show you? I want to show you the faces of all these amazing 55 storytellers today who actually have their published stories in this book. So, Ketki, can you? Sorry, there are too many names to read out, but we'd like to felicitate all of you who are up here today because you'll all deserved it to have your book stories published today. It was wonderful. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Sudipta.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm sorry, you'll just have to do without my face right now. So we'll move on to the next level, which is I'm going to invite the five children on and have them come and read excerpts from their book. I'm going to do what Shabnam was telling us to do, which is read a little bit and then hope that the children are going to want to read the rest of the stories. And so let's start with Kavya Ghoshal. She is from Oberoi International, Mumbai, and she's written this amazing book which is called The Irony of Life. So, can we have Kavya on?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Kavya.
So,
Hi, Kavya.
hello.
Would you, would you like to read out a small excerpt from your story that you like the best?
Yeah, I will. So like we discussed this call, the story does touch into the more kind of darker tones and genres, and so I'll read a short excerpt that I like to say. The door. Open the door. Yes, I will. I push open the door and freeze when I hear a whimper in front of me. This part always frightens me, every single time. I flip the switch next to me and blink as my eyes adjust to the light. Tied to a chair in front of me is Miss Harris, my English teacher. She told me that I was bad at writing and blamed the lack of skill on my bad parents. I was hurt. You're always hurt. Speed it up. I stare at her. A silver chain wound tight all around parts of her body, giving her just enough room to breathe. A piece of cloth forces her mouth open and her eyes stare into mine, breathing. I wonder if that's what I looked like to her when I begged her to give me another chance to submit my paper. After all, she knew that it was the anniversary of my parents' death. You hate this woman, you know what to do. I do. I do know what to do. I hate her. And yet, as her eyes full of terror stare into mine, I feel a pang of sympathy. She doesn't need my sympathy. I open the bag and she bites my finger. Ouch. That was sharp. Her tooth stares through my glove and a spot of blood stains its pearly white surface. I look into her eyes and stroke her face. She flinches. Don't flinch, I tell her. This will be easy. Painless. Unlike what your parents said. That's all. That's all I'm doing.
That was beautiful. I love your colloquial way of writing. It's
Thank
sort of like hearing you speak, and like we can actually hear what's happening inside your head, when you're writing the book. And that's, I love that style. And of course, it's a really interesting book, so all of you should go ahead and read it. Yeah, because it's a lovely, lovely story, and it's a
you.
little dark, like we were talking about, but very interesting. Yeah, thanks so much, Kavya, and congratulations for having your book, your story published. And you're already a published author now.
Thank you so
So,
much for having me here.
yeah, thanks. Okay, next we'll have Valumi Sedani. Valumi, from this, she is from Utpal Sangvi Global School, Mumbai again. And the story is called The Sun That Never Sets. Valumi, are you excited to be here?
Hey, yes, I am extremely excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And so tell me, who is the most excited in your house that you've actually got published?
I think it's my daddy. She's been telling me to wear this, wear that at the book launch, and she's asking to read my story, and she's asking me to send pictures on the family group.
That's so sweet. That's what grandmas are like. I agree. Okay, so go ahead and read your excerpt.
Okay, so this is actually the last paragraph of my story. It's called "The Sun That Never Set," and it's a bit more poetic and more than a story, but I close my eyes to catch some rest, but the nightmares come back again. You're on a ship, floating farther and farther away as your rudder breaks loose. Sleet drops from the sky like rocks from a boulder, clouds frozen in time. My throat dries up, screaming your name, but you fade away into the mists of distance. Our house breaks away and mom becomes silent. I scream her name but get no reply. I feel a hand on my waist, and suddenly the sky clears. You float back home, and the winds of winter become a cool summer breeze. My tears fade away as you hold me close again. My hand doesn't tremble anymore. My eyes open like feathers in the air, and Liam has his baby hand on my waist. I look into his eyes, your eyes. You promised you'd come back, and William Dunsley was a man of his word. After 30 years, the sun rises again. After decades of winter, I feel your warmth again. That's it.
Wow, that's absolutely beautiful. It I remember when I read your story, it made me cry. And I
Oh
remember
my
the end,
god!
absolutely like feeling like so filled up, and just such a beautiful ending
Oh
and
my god!
lovely writing. I really
Thank you
enjoy
so much.
like your, as you said, your poetry. It is
Thank you so
beautiful.
much. This means so much
So
to me.
thank you so much, Malomi, for being here with us. And thank you. And we'll move to the next person today who's going to tell a story. And this is Samhita Dev. She's from the Alpine Public School from Bengaluru. Um, this story is called The Mystery of the Missing Vase. Now, this actually reminded me a lot of all the mystery stories that we've ever read. All the, um, starting with Enid Blyton, but the more refined and older forms now. So it was really interesting. So why
Yeah,
don't you
thank
read
you.
out something for us? Was this
Yeah, sure.
exciting? Was it exciting to write this story?
Yeah, it actually was, and it was a great experience. It made me come up with more plots similar and different.
I can imagine because what is really exciting about this story is like like any other mystery story, like an Agatha Christie or whatever, is to hold it together, right? Sometimes you
Yeah.
can start something and not quite know how to finish it, and how to like not have any of those loose ends, in the story. And your story captured it beautifully. Go right ahead,
Thank you.
Samita.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
So this comes from somewhere in between my story, just before the actual fun starts. So here goes. Do you know about the auction of the vase? Asked John and showed Peter the photos and the pamphlet. Peter too admired the photos and was about to return them when he noticed something. Something is not right. Look, he pointed out that the picture in the pamphlet did not have the carving of a bird, but it was there in the photos taken by John. John didn't think much of it, but Peter was adamant and said, "This isn't a photographical error. If the carving is there in the photo, it really is." After about 15 minutes, John found himself back at the museum as Peter was sure that the two artifacts were different and wanted to inform the curator. The curator introduced himself as Casey. Peter interrupted him and said, "Sir, the vase kept for display is a fake. The picture of the vase in the pamphlet doesn't have a bird, whereas the vase kept for display does." The curator was shocked. He was silent for a minute and replied, "This can't be. You are just making things up." And then is where the real fun starts.
And then you're going to wonder what happened,
Yeah,
right? What happened next? Yeah, it's like a proper whodunit. And everyone who's
cliffhanger.
watching this, it was a really interesting story. Don't miss going ahead and reading her story. So thanks so much, Samhita, for being here with us.
Thank
And
you for having me.
we'll move to the next person whom we've invited today, Yashaf Chohan. He is from the Nirja Modi School in Jaipur, and his story is called Lost on the Moon. Yes, we are
Good
very excited.
afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. So, is it very cold out there?
Well, it's not actually cold, but then it's very weird because this is something that has never happened before. And I was nervous of using a story plot like this, but then now I'm happy that I'm selected.
Yeah, it was a very interesting story. Also, I anyway love all types of science fiction. So, go right ahead and start. Waiting
The
to hear your
first
excerpt.
The first thought that came to my mind was that it was a prank, but when I got up, I knew it wasn't. I stood there, thinking it was a dream that would soon get over, but I didn't have time to ponder over it, as suddenly, out of nowhere, a 10-second countdown started. I waited for something to happen, perhaps a whirring sound to appear, as I had seen in the movies. But all that happened when the countdown got over was that a screen appeared in midair with a message written on it. I read it aloud. Portal to Earth is closed. The next portal will appear after 364 days and 15 seconds. Thank you.
That's you're going to leave it there for us. Now, what's going to happen? I loved your these details. 364 days and 15 seconds. I mean, those sort of things which make the story so real. That was a really interesting story. So thanks so much, Yashaf, for actually sharing it with us. Yeah, thanks so much. And we'll move to our last storyteller for the day. I know all of y'all will want to keep hearing these stories, but this is our last storyteller from the day, Harshal Patki from the Somaya school. And the story that he's telling, he'll tell you about it himself, but it's a really interesting story, and it's based in history. It's based in the Second World War, Harshal.
Yes, yes, it is. It's actually the invasion of France. When
Yes.
Germany invaded France, it took a route that was plotted in World War One itself. The French had built a very strong defensive line, which was there for 50 years, and nobody could cross it. So the Germans came up with an innovative way to go across Belgium and invade France from the north rather than the east, where
Okay.
majority of the French forces were deployed. So that sort of sped up the German progress.
Okay. So this is what it's based on.
Yes, it is. So
That is like so interesting, right? That's a really interesting context to have set, when you're going into the story. How did you decide which side, which point of view to take this story from?
well, this is well, I've written this story from the point of view of a soldier who is fighting for the French side, and he is actually so Paris had several bunkers at the northeast and eastern sides of the Paris district. So basically, what happened was there were many soldiers deployed in the capital district itself. So this is one of those soldiers.
Okay.
So okay,
So it's very
I'll
interesting. Go
start.
ahead. Read your excerpt. Yeah.
Yeah, my son, he said, the Germans are coming through the capital, towards the capital. They broke through the front. The news spread through the camp and to the bunker. It infested the very essence of the place. Everybody waited in dread for the day when the Germans would arrive. The camp was back to being a camp and the bunker was back to being a bunker. The bunker in between the Germans and our bunker was finally overthrown. Our bunker was finally the last line of defense for the city of Paris. The next day, soldiers arrived from the defeated bunker. They came as prisoners of war. The Battle of Paris had finally started. Well, that's it. I'm
Thank you
going to
so
leave it here.
much. Harshal, lovely story. I mean, I really liked your story as well. So thank you so much for being here with us. And now we are going to head to the most important part of today's event, which is actually launching the book. So could we have, Ketke, could we have everyone on screen? Okay, so are we all here, or is there one more person? Two, three. Yeah, there's one more. I can see Kavya's here. Is there someone missing, or is everyone here? Okay,
So we could have
never
a
mind.
loud cheer for all the young storytellers who are present on
Yes.
screen,
So,
in every, yeah,
yes, everyone.
celebrate their thing.
Shabnam, can you
Yes.
please officially launch the book? Everyone, put up your books if you all have it with you. Everyone who's got their books can put up their books. And we officially launched this book. Please get a copy. These are the most amazing stories that you're going to read. And they're all written by people your age. But actually, I have to admit that I, as an adult, loved the book. Yeah, so it was like a lovely read, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this process. Thank you, all of you, not just the 55 of you are here, but everyone else who participated in this competition because all your stories were wonderful. Ketki, there is a request to see everyone's face once again. All the 55 storytellers, they'd like to have a look at everyone's face again before I hand it back to Harshal. Yeah, so can we play that with that PPT again once because people wanted to, and some of them had missed it or whatever. So a couple of people have requested out here. So congratulations to all of you. Ketki, are you going to be able to do that? Harshal, should we wait or?
I guess she's not there because we are already 10 of us on the screen.
Oh, okay.
So,
Never mind then.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine then. So Harshal, I'll hand this back to you. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this amazing launch event as well as this larger initiative of Crossword. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, we are presenting. So,
Okay, yeah, it's happening.
yeah, we'll just wait.
This now actually goes up on all their resumes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ketki. Okay, Harshal, on to you.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, I was really amazed uh, by these young storytellers and with the passion they narrated it. So a huge round of applause for all of them. I guess equally we didn't had time to listen to all the 55. So please pardon us. But believe me, I
Yes.
guess would have been a great. If we would have done offline and we would have done something. But yeah, because of this overall scenario, we had to conduct this event online. So I would really like to, thank everyone and to take cues from what Shabnam, what Parveen said in terms of like, if you're a reader of today, you become leader of tomorrow. I guess that's also written in the library of Parveen Sheikh at Somaya. So taking out from there and I really liked the discussion wherein how we all encourage at schools. So I guess this should be definitely taken it ahead with a lot of other schools. I know they are doing in terms of having book clubs, having reading lectures. In terms of it literally changes people's life. It gives you a perspective like where you empathize with people, where you live different lives, as Shabnam said. While discussion was there. And to conclude, I would officially like to thank all the people who were related to this. I want to be an author season 3. Sorry, it's going to be a bit long, so just bear with me because there's been many people who have been associated, and it's been almost a year since we have started. And yeah, so here we are celebrating today finally the season 3, as you all could see. So I would like to thank every single person who's been associated. And who knows, like, in years to come, we get our own signature author and we will be really spellbound to hear the stories in form of a published book, seeing at Crossword online, offline. And that would really give us assurance, like, what all we have done over the years. Like, this is a season three and many more years to go. And hope it gives an assurance, like, we are doing a good job and we are on the right path. So thanks for reassuring us. And, these entries definitely shows us that. And as you all said, like, reading is a continuous process. So in terms of encouraging kids through literary festival, apart from it, would also like to thank our sponsors like Flair, without whose support wouldn't have been possible. Our on-ground partners like Storytelling Works, Sudipta, Amisha, Rita, and pardon me if I'm forgetting anyone out there. Thank you, kids, for reading out the excerpts. You all are really, really amazing. Manish and team from Authors Upfront for incessantly taking up feedback for the cover page, overall editing, and compiling it into a wonderful book, which we are holding it right now. Uh, believe us, like, we took almost 2 months to finalize the cover page. So that's how we had been, like, exchange of ideas in terms of. So thanks, Manish. And I would also like to thank our internal team at Crossword, like KP Pandey, Rinki Gopalani from The Right Place, Sonal and entire books team, Nipun, Jyoti, Pawan, Yogesh, and our management, especially for believing in us and with the campaign. One personal request, I have for all the parents, and I would like to make an appeal on this platform. Like, you all take the kids abroad, you all ensure, like, they travel, they read world history, they see the world, but also ensure, like, we make them connected to the roots. Let them listen to the stories from their grandparents. Let them be connected to their roots. Like, as it is said, a tree which is well connected doesn't get uprooted in a storm easily. And just to quote an example, the other day we were doing a book launch with Sudhamurthy ji, and she has herself, she's been writing since 40 years in Kannada, her own mother tongue. So let the stories be in whichever language, but it's important to be, told. So that's one appeal, and please make them read our own folk stories, a lot of your own, literature which you could find in your mother tongue, but make them, or rather, if the parents read, the kids would read. So that's one request I would, or an appeal which I would like to uh, have for the parents. Apart from that, heartfelt gratitude for the guests for the evening, Parveen Sheikh, Shabnam Nirmala ma'am, and our very own moderator, Sudipta Dhruva, our young storytellers, and all the viewers who are watching us online. And the young storytellers who have not been, we really, really would like to, thank you all as well for being part of such a wonderful journey. And the books are available at your nearest Crossword bookstore. Apart from it, it's also available on www.crossword.in. I would just like to end with a quote. So the more you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you will go. Dr. Suez. So thank you once again for this wonderful journey, and we hope many more seasons. We should have like these, probably offline and online. Thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.